Welcome back to the channel, folks. Uh, I bought a couple string trimmers for a different video project, and I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to kind of do a full review. These kind of a cheap, supposedly 52cc string trimmer. I'll put the details up on the screen here. But I bought them for, like I said, I bought them for a different video. I'll get this unboxed, kind of see what's in them, and put some fuel, get them fired up, and play with them a little bit, and we'll see if they're worth the, I believe it's $130 I paid for them. So let's get this thing unboxed. I know you can't see much. It's kind of a little big for the bench as I'm knocking things on the floor. The box did get damaged a little bit in shipping. So here's the shaft. It is a straight shaft trimmer. There's a guard for the head of it. Got a couple handles here. This is the shoulder strap. Probably going to need that because these are pretty heavy. There's the string trimmer head. It does come with a fancy little tool kit. And a gas fuel mixing jug, which I'll probably never use, and it looks like it's already missing a cap. And cheap gloves and safety glasses. There's the cutting blade it comes with. Doesn't feel horrible. It's a little flimsy, but I guess you don't want anything too awful heavy. So here's the upper half of the shaft. It connects to the engine. So there's your clutch drum. There's the engine itself. There's the other handle. All the pictures showed the throttle being for the left hand, but it looks like you can put it either which way, which is nice. And I like the push button off. It's not a toggle switch. That kind of annoys me. And it looks like that's it. Got a funnel, and there's the cap for the fuel jug that I'll never use. So here's the guideline for fault analysis of gasoline engines, which I guess is probably pretty straightforward. And then it comes a little instruction book. I'm not seeing any screws anywhere to mount the shaft onto the engine. Hopefully they're in the toolkit. I just want to take a quick peek at this manual and see if it's even worth the paper it's printed on. I guess if you didn't know how to operate an engine, a two-stroke engine, there's some operating instructions. Safety instructions that we'll completely ignore. Engine and main pie. Well, I didn't realize string trimmers came with pie. If you can see that right there. So it kind of does tell you how to put it together. So let's see what we got in the toolkit here. So there's our screws for mounting the shaft of the engine. wrench. Not exactly sure where that goes yet. Oh, it's got a nice little reversible screwdriver. Isn't that handy? A couple Allen wrenches, plastic screws. Oh, I bet this goes here to hold the guard on. And these must be the 2 screws for that. And what do we got here? So let's take a gander before we put this thing together. But I've already looked at this manual. So I guess this will tell you how to put it together. But before we do that, I want to take the spark plug off and see if I can get to the muffler on this. Take the muffler off. I want to get some footage of the inside, see what the cylinder and piston look like. And at some point after I run them, I want to tear it apart and see if these are actually 52cc engines or not. So let me get some tools out, see if I can get this thing apart and take a look inside. Okay, now that I got it tore apart, let's take a quick peek down in the cylinder here. That looks lovely, doesn't it? Something tells me that cylinder's not long for this world. Those have got to be pits down in there. This is looking down the spark plug hole, obviously. There's the exhaust port. Transfers. See if I can get the other side. Let's go take a look in the exhaust port. Alright, let's see if I can get us rotated so we're looking the right direction here. Okay, so there's the top of the piston. There's the transfer port on one side. Yeah, that definitely looks like pitting to me. Looks like a poor plating job. There's the other transfer port. Let me see if I can spin that piston up to drop dead center. And then we'll see if we can get in the intake. See if we can look at the crankcase. Can't really see a whole lot down in there. Definitely looks, don't see quite as much pitting, a little bit there. See down in the crank, I guess not. Let's see if I can bring that piston back down. Looks like it's got some oil in it already, which is good. Don't want to fire it up completely dry. So there's a look inside. So let me get this put back together, get some fuel in it, get it fired up. Okay, let's see if we can get this put together here. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on these 4 bolts that hold the shaft on the power head. Probably most people aren't going to do this, but I'm going to, just because I like using Loctite. Doesn't need a lot. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. It's only 4 for the power head. Not sure what the 5th screw here is for. It might be spare, it might be for something else. So I'm going to assume that this goes up. My bench is a little small for doing this. I hope I can keep as much of this in frame as I can. And I'm using a 5mm T-handle. I'm sure well, maybe I won't. So I guess we'll try the wrench that came with the saw. Or excuse me, the trimmer. I'm so used to working on chainsaws. I don't work on a whole lot of string trimmers. Just get these all snugged up before I go torquing them down. Looks like these have lock washers under them, so might be a little redundant putting Loctite on there, but I definitely don't want this coming loose. And of course these are threading into aluminum, so I don't have to go super tight with them. And that's what's nice about the Loctite. If they're not super tight, the Loctite will keep them from backing out. Okay, there's that. So I'm right-handed, so I want my throttle over here on the right-hand side, which you're going to have a hard time seeing because it's way over here on this side of the bench. So let's get these loosened up. I'll grab the other handle here. Kind of measure that out and see where center is. It feels like there is a stop in there. It does not feel like there's anything to keep these from spinning. There's no keyway or pin or anything. Just clamp force is all. So I'm just going to put them in like this for now. And I guess when I go to run it, we'll see how it feels. Again, these are just in aluminum, no need to go super tight with them. So there it is. Well, let's get this out of the way for a minute. We'll see about putting the shield on the end here. See how this thing goes on here. So that's got to go under here. And this goes over top here. That must be these 2 long ones. They look like they might be a little too long for the job. I'll put some more Loctite on. Of course, I'm doing it off camera so you can't see what I'm doing. Grab the 5mm. And I've kind of got the power head pointed straight down, or excuse me, the cutting head pointing straight down. I don't know if that's the right way. Oops, bang you right in the face. Again, until I get it put together and start using it, then we can adjust things. Okay. So it comes with this trimmer head. Oh, this is left-handed thread. Help if I was doing it on camera. Eventually I'm going to try out the saw blade. I guess it's not really a saw blade, the cutting blade. But for now, I'm going to put the string on. This must be the cutting blade that goes under here. I should have put this on before I put it all the way together. So it must go like that. Yep. So that goes on there like that. Grab my screws. Must be to give you an extra. So grab a screwdriver. Make sure you grab one that's way too big for the job. See if I can get this one started. Yeah, this has been easier to do before I put it on the shaft top. Yeah. I have to go get it anyways. Well, maybe. It's not exactly easy to do with the camera in the way. Let me get the third one started. And just be careful that these are going into plastic, so pretty easy to strip out the holes. Well, I guess that's tight enough. So, get these tools out of the way. I suppose I could have used the tool they sent with the machine, huh? That'll work good enough. So now we've got to put the shaft together. Pull our rubber safety cap off. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this on camera. Kind of running out of room on the bench. Okay. So this has a hole on this side, and it's got this pull pin on this side. So if you loosen up the clamp, this will pull out a little bit. Now that's popped in. I don't even know if that was on camera. Hopefully it was. So now this is popped into place. We can tighten this handle up here. There we go. Now we're ready to put some fuel in it and cut some grass. Now I've got fuel in it. Let's see how many pulls it takes to get it to start. So we'll pull up for the choke. Well, that wasn't too bad. It does sound like it's going to be a little cold-blooded. Almost sounds like it's running a little rich on the top end. It doesn't sound like it's revving up quite high enough. This is a 40-to-1 mix. This is the Echo Red Armor. So we'll let her cool down a little bit. We'll give it a couple heat cycles. Then we'll see what it can do. I've got some fuel in it. Let's give it some choke. Give it full pulls. Few pulls. Let's see what she sounds like. So the shaft is locked up on this, so we'll pull it off and see where the problem is. Well, let's see what it does without the trimmer head on it. Fine here. Take a look and see what's inside the trimmer head. Well, let's see what's inside this trimmer head. See if I can get it off here and figure out why it's not spinning. Guessing I gotta take that screw out. Suppose this is the risk you take when you buy these cheap knockoff equipment off Amazon for dirt cheap. Might have been assembled wrong, or might be something broke inside. Okay, well that's spinning down in there. Yeah, this is not wanting to spin at all. Well, it's just got a straight shaft in there. I wonder if I crush this when I put this on here. Definitely, if you listen, it sounds like it's down in here. So let me loosen these up a couple turns. Maybe I need to put some washers under here. Or if damage is already done. Well, let's just pull the shaft all the way out if it'll come all the way out. We'll take a gander down inside and see. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see that. There's definitely something. Looks like the bearing they pushed down in there, the seal got messed up. So let's see if I can get a picture of it down in there. So let's see what we can do to fix that problem. So what I ended up doing is pulling the shaft out and putting a little bar and chain oil on it. Feels like there's 3 bearings in here, and one of them is in there crooked, so it's clearly not going to spin very well. I'm hoping maybe lubing it up might solve that issue, but time will tell. So this is the anti-rotation bolt, I guess you'd call it, and this clamps it down tight. I don't know if you can see the puddle of bar and chain oil I dumped all over the bench. Yeah, let's put this back on there. I think I had that on upside down anyways. And this is left-handed thread. Oh, that spins much better now. When I put the head on before, it wouldn't spin like that. So let's go back out and try it. Well, I'm not sure what the weather's been like for you in the rest of the world, but I know here it has been one of the rainiest springs I can remember. It's rained like almost every day. I sit at work in my office and I look out the window and it's absolutely gorgeous. Come 4 o'clock when it's time to leave, it starts raining. So I don't have much of a choice but to do my weed eating in the rain. So I may look pretty silly running around in my raincoat with a weed eater, but that's what I got to do. So I'm going to hide this microphone in my shirt and hopefully it muffles it enough so that it sounds okay. I just wanted a little update here in the middle of the video here. You can see that the plastic here is broke and I have a new string trimmer head. The one of the original ones ended up falling apart right in the middle of trimming away, and I lost the spring inside. So I ended up buying these are the Echo power feed, quick feed, whatever they are. These are, I believe this one's the HIPAA off-brand aftermarket style quick feed head. So I just want to kind of put a little update right here in the middle. The engine's running fine. I have one of them, I can't remember which one. It's a little bit hard to start, but once it gets up and running, it runs like a champ. And everything else has been real good, which is to be expected. The plastics are cheap. So as you can see behind me, I've got a whole bunch of pond bank to trim away, so I'll throw this montage in. Alright, so we're back at the bench. I want to kind of go over my thoughts on these trimmers. Being a clone, they're cheap, and some of the things are accurately priced. First thing you'll notice, a big giant hole in the guard here. That happened like the first time I used it. It spun on the shaft and the string come up and hit it and cracked it. Also, the trimmer heads do not stay together very well. It ended up falling off while I was trimming a couple times. Ended up losing the spring and the spacer that goes under it. But that's just about it for the downsides of the machine. It's a little cold-blooded. Takes a little while to get warmed up, but once it does, runs like a champ. It's got plenty of power. I ended up buying, I think it was a HIPAA speed feed clone type string trimmer head for it. and works pretty well. I also use the blade. They are cheap aluminum, and if you hit anything at all with it, it will end up bending. See here that these corners are beat up pretty bad. I don't know what I hit with it. The other one, I ended up buying 2 of these. The other one is even worse. These supposedly are steel, but they're pretty light gauge steel. But other than that, even the gloves that come with it, you know, they look like they're cheap, crappy gloves, but I've been using them. They've held up rather well, and they're, other than being a little small for my giant hands, I can't complain. So I'm going to pull the spark plug on this machine. This is the HP Ultra machine. And we'll take a look down inside with the borescope. Let's see what it looks like down in there. Spark plug looks a little dark, but really not bad. I've got not quite 2 gallons through this, each one of these, maybe 1.5 gallons. So it doesn't look like it's running too lean or too horribly rich, which is good. Grab my borescope here, which I hope is charged up. Looks like it is. So we'll go down in the spark plug hole. See the cylinder there. Doesn't look like there's any scoring. The pitting doesn't look too bad. Looks like maybe it's polished itself up pretty good. That's the exhaust port. Doesn't look too bad in there. It's kind of hard to see the color on this borescope. Looks like there's a little carbon building up in the exhaust port towards the muffler end more. So that doesn't look bad at all. This has got what about just about 1.5 gallons of fuel run through it. So that's not too bad. So I guess I'll conclude this review portion of this video here. If you're looking for a nice big powerful brush cutter, string trimmer, as long as you're decent at working on equipment, these things will probably last you quite a few years. Definitely not anything you'd want to buy for commercial setting, but I think for homeowner, you know, something cheap you want to throw out to your cabin. If it gets stolen, you're only out $100 or 150 instead of 5 or 6. I think this would be perfect for that. Well, if you end up buying one of these or have something similar, leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts on them. I did find some information. I'll probably add this to earlier section of the video, but just in case I forget, these appear to be a Shindawa clone, or clone of a Shindawa brush cutter. A few little differences here and there, but pretty sure that's where the most of the power head design came from. I did see some echoes that were similar, but I'm pretty sure by looking at the fuel tank, the way that's set up, this is a Shindawa. So with that, I'll let you guys talk down in the comments what you think, and thanks for watching.